Imagine, if you will, a canvas so massive it doesn't just cover the realm of men, but stretches into the unseen world of jinns, the whistling winds, and the wild beasts. Today, in this explainer, we're painting the epic portrait of Prophet Sulaiman, or Sulaiman. We're looking at a figure of unimaginable, literal world-bending power and his profound divine destiny. Let's just dive right into this masterpiece. It's a breathtaking, honestly kind of tragic contrast when you really look at it. Absolute control over the natural and supernatural world, all just erased in an instant. I mean, how does a king who commands the very air we breathe lose everything to a stolen ring? That's exactly the mystery we're unpacking today. Scene 1. The masterpiece of power. To truly grasp his fall, we really have to understand the sheer height of this kingdom first. Picture a glorious morning in the hills of Jerusalem. As the very first rays of the sun struck, this unique rustling would completely fill the air. Thousands, literally thousands of bird wings would spread out, forming this living, sweeping shadow across the sky just to protect their king from the heat. And at the center of all this was a throne that honestly defies human imagination. It wasn't just ivory. It was encrusted with rare rubies, pearls, and emeralds. It had 4 golden trees with ruby grapes that looked like they were glowing with actual fire. As the king stepped onto it, the whole thing would rotate like some mysterious mill. Golden peacocks would spread their wings, mechanical lions would wag their tails, and golden eagles would mechanically descend just to place the crown on his head. Doves would sprinkle the air with the intoxicating scent of musk. It was this mechanical majesty engineered by jinns, and it left even the absolute bravest trembling in awe. But here we see the greatest, most beautiful paradox of his entire rule. On one side, you have the commander of jinns, right? A guy whose kitchens cooked 20 camels at once just to feed his massive, diverse armies. But on the other side, a weaver of palm baskets. Despite this unmatched wealth, Prophet Sulaiman flat out refused to take a single coin for his livelihood from the royal treasury. He sustained himself by weaving baskets with his own 2 hands and selling them in the market. It's just a profound, incredible display of humility. Scene 2. The stolen colors. But, a canvas this bright inevitably attracts shadows. The entire fate of this magnificent kingdom was tied to one single sacred ring. When the king had to leave his chambers, he'd entrust this ring to a highly reliable maid named Amina. Well, one day, a shadowy demon, the chief of devils actually, used dark magic to perfectly impersonate the king. He casually walked up to Amina, asked for the ring, and quietly slipped it onto his own finger. And just like that, the colors were wiped completely from the canvas. Day 1 of his exile, the real king asks for his ring, only to be turned away, totally unrecognized by his own guards, and literally shoved out of his own palace. For the next 39 days, the master of the winds was forced to walk barefoot on burning sand, working as a destitute laborer alongside fishermen, earning merely 2 fish a day. So why did this happen? Well, the sources tell us this trial came down because, completely unknowingly to him, idolatry was taking place in his own household by one of his wives. It was a strict, sweeping stroke of divine discipline. Meanwhile, the kingdom was plunged into total darkness. The imposter demon ruled with cruelty, making decisions that went entirely against divine law. And of course, suspicion quickly spread. The king's mother and wives started noticing this imposter seriously lacked the pure character of a prophet. Realizing his secret was unraveling, the terrified demon took the sacred ring and hurled it out into the violent waves of the sea, thinking he was burying the true king forever. Scene 3. The Restoration. But destiny is a painter who never abandons a masterpiece. It's the 40th day. The destitute king is sitting quietly by the water. He's hungry, holding a knife, about to cut open a fish he received as his meager daily wage. It really begs the question, doesn't it? How does a king reclaim the world from the belly of a fish? As he sliced the fish open, his fingers brushed against something hard and cold. He pulled it out, and his eyes must have just widened in absolute shock. It was the sacred ring, the very ring inscribed with the greatest name of God. The exact second it slipped back onto his finger, the restoration was explosive. The sky instantly darkened with a sudden, massive shadow of thousands of birds flocking to protect him again. The wind gently circled him once more, and miles away, the jinns trembled, realizing their true master had finally returned. The imposter's dark magic shattered, and that demon was captured and locked away in the absolute depths of the sea. And this brings up a super fascinating point from the source material regarding Asaf bin Barkia. He was this incredibly wise vizier who possessed deep mystical knowledge. When people later asked him why he didn't just expose the demon, he said he knew the exact fish that swallowed the ring, and literally even its ancestors. But he remained silent because he recognized this was a time of divine trial. His pen, however, absolutely refused to write the tyrant's unjust decrees. This whole concept is perfectly encapsulated in the term Amr-e-Muqaddar, or divine decree. The king once asked why the hoopoe bird, which has this brilliant, almost magical ability to see water deep underground, can be so easily trapped by a hunter's net hiding just under a thin layer of dust. The answer? When Amr-e-Muqaddar arrives, when destiny actually strikes, even the sharpest human or avian eyes are temporarily blinded. We just submit to the overarching stroke of divine timing. Scene 4. The Illusions of Control. As we open the final, tragic act of this explainer, we're going to explore two profound tests that really shattered any illusion that immense earthly power equals absolute control over fate. The king inherited 1,000 noble, magnificent steeds. One evening, as he was inspecting these beautiful animals, the golden dust kicked up by their hooves was sparkling in the fading light. He was so deeply entranced by their sheer beauty, preparing them for a noble cause, that the sun quietly slipped away behind the mountains. He had entirely missed his afternoon prayer. Now let's clear up a major misconception right here. The myth says he got so furious at missing his prayer that he brutally killed the horses. But the truth, as scholars firmly point out, is very different. I mean, a prophet wouldn't punish innocent animals. Instead, he prayed, and miraculously, the sun was returned to the horizon so he could pray on time. Afterward, he lovingly washed and massaged the legs and necks of these horses with sweeps of tender, genuine care. The final test, however, was far more heartbreaking. In a fleeting moment of prideful ambition, the king declared that he would visit all 70 of his wives in one single night, so each would bear a warrior for a righteous cause. But he forgot to say one absolutely crucial phrase, Insha'Allah, which means if God wills. Because of that single forgotten phrase, only one wife conceived. And tragically, the child was born incomplete, effectively possessing just half a body. The king loved this child dearly, keeping him close beside him on his throne. But one day, during a busy royal court session, a stranger appeared. It was the angel of death in human form. But why was he staring? The angel of death cast this silent, eerie, and incredibly intense gaze directly upon this fragile child, striking absolute, icy terror into the heart of the powerful king. Desperate to outmaneuver mortality itself, the king frantically asked his supernatural servants for a hiding place. He received this doomed counsel from a demon. I will take him to the heights of the sky, hidden within a dense cloud. The father, using all of his immense power, commanded the wind to carry his beloved child way up into the clouds, truly believing he had successfully hidden him from death. But here is the tragic climax, the final brushstroke of destiny. The angel of death had only been staring at the child in the court out of pure confusion. You see, the angel's divine orders were to take the child's soul up in the clouds, and he'd been standing there wondering how on earth a wingless human child was going to get all the way up there. The king's very attempt to save his son delivered him directly to his appointed death. Suddenly, with a crack of lightning, the lifeless body of the child fell right back down onto the royal throne. It was in that devastating, heartbreaking moment that the most powerful man on earth realized his ultimate fragility before the divine canvas. He fell into absolute submission and prostration, weeping, realizing he had relied on his own tactics rather than trusting completely in God. He asked for forgiveness, and in return asked for a kingdom so unique it would never be given to anyone else after him. So the absolutely crucial point we are left with today is this. If a king who commanded the winds, the beasts, and the supernatural jinns could not outrun destiny, how much control do we truly have over our own? It's a breathtaking thought, isn't it? One that really leaves us reflecting on the invisible forces shaping our own lives. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive leaves you with a completely renewed perspective on the balance of power and submission.